Davis.
Here.
Dirth.
Here.
Ogleski.
Here.
Herman.
Here.
Michelson.
Here.
Miller. Rule.
Here.
Schuessler.
Here.
Wooler.
Here. You want to introduce?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Brad Brown. Brad is our Leadership Oshkosh adjunct board member. So Brad will be joining us until the graduation takes place, I believe, in May, typically. So he'll be here for the next number of months. Brad, you want to just maybe give a little bit of your background and why you maybe chose the board?
Sure. My name's Brad Brown, and like you said, longtime Oshkosh resident since I was born, which was many, many moons ago. Worked in Oshkosh at Oshkosh Cyclery. Here's a fun fact, is I worked at Oshkosh. Every place I've worked has always had the word Oshkosh in it. So I've worked at the Oshkosh Northwestern delivering papers, Oshkosh Cyclery. I sold bikes for about 20 years. Now I work at Oshkosh Corp. And in between there, I actually worked at Oshkosh B'gosh too. So every place that I've worked at had the title Oshkosh. One of the reasons I am on Leadership Oshkosh from Oshkosh Corp, they're my sponsor. The reason I picked the Parks Committee one was basically I've known Jim for a long time on the bicycling part, and bicycling's kind of dear and near to my heart, so I do like that. So I wanted to get involved in something that was a little different than my work and a little bit more based on my hobby. So that's being outside and enjoying the kind of the stuff that we offer as a city. That's a little bit about me.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. Okay, approval of the October 10th minutes. Any additions, corrections? Entertain a motion to accept.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Parks business tonight is discuss and recommend establishment athletic facilities rental fees. Great.
Yes. Since the last board meeting, what I've had the opportunity to do is meet one-on-one with each of the larger user groups that had showed up at the last meeting with some concerns about the fees that we had proposed. And as this board is aware, it all came from us for scheduling purposes for the athletic facilities. And so what I wanted to do, I know the board had requested a workshop, and I wasn't so sure how productive that workshop would be based on some of the feedback we had gotten. So I wanted to take it on initially to say, if we can work out any of those issues and that we can all come to some kind of an agreement, if not all of us, 80–90% of us, that I thought that would be fruitful use of our time. So I met individually with those groups. And then last Wednesday, we actually had a group meeting. Chad and I invited all the major user groups to come to the senior center. I think it started at 6:30, and we went till about 7:45. Had a really good discussion, and we had a sign-in list. We had representatives from Oshkosh Youth Baseball, Oshkosh North Baseball, Oshkosh North Softball, both softballs on the north side, Oshkosh YMCA, and then the Oshkosh Fast Club Raiders. So those are the main users, I would say, of our facility, our facilities. And what I also did in between was met with the Recreation Department. As Chad and I had mentioned, the Recreation Department, we really try to schedule the adult softball first, again, working intergovernmentally together. And what we asked the Recreation Department is if they could get us their scheduling a little further in advance, would help us determine, once they know which fields they were going to be using, which other fields might be available then for a lot of these other user groups. Recreation Department was receptive to that. They have moved up their deadline. They actually gave us a list of the fields that they're pretty confident that they're going to be using already for next year, so we have that information. But they did ensure us that the week of March 20th, they would get us the number and the need for the fields that they have, which is about 3 weeks earlier, which really helps us and it helps all the other user groups. So that's a big step, and so that's appreciated as well. What we did last Wednesday, I've got our agenda here. I didn't make copies because it was some of the general comments that we have been working through the last couple of years. We introduced each other as we went around, talked about the purpose of the meeting as far as needing to work through these scheduling issues, the need for true, realistic requests for facilities. As a number of you board members know, I shared with you information that I had shared with the council because they had requested some additional information. and we said we really need to have true requests for those fields. Talked about what Chad goes through as far as trying to accommodate all the user groups based on the age of the participants, the size of the fields, geographic location of the groups, special needs for like Special Olympics needing a Tuesday night on a bus route and so forth. So all those things we talked about being special considerations. Talked about the idea and the proposal not to charge the school district recreation department, and I shared some information with a number of you, and in meeting with the rec department, just to give you an idea, they do have a diamond improvement fund, as we know. Their team fee per team is $100. Of that $100, $20 goes into the diamond improvement fund. They also have a $7 per player fee. I'm sorry, it's a $20.
Player fee was $7 going to the improvement.
Yeah. I didn't write down. They have a city resident player fee, and then $7 from that goes into the improvement fund, and then they have a non-resident player fee, and again, $7 from that goes into that player fund. Last year, they generated almost $15,000 in player fees, which again is money that goes directly into either city diamonds that are used by the adult leagues or into the county facilities. And they did provide us a list of improvements that they've made in the past, and we've used some of that funding as well to help on our improvements. So the adult softball does contribute to the maintenance and upgrading of some of our fields. So that they have about 1,750 players each year, and talking with Alan Laurie, they said that between 80 and 90% of that number are city residents. So it gives you kind of an idea based on some of the other user group information that I gave you. We then talked about scheduling ideas and how we can get, past some of these issues. Did inform them that we need to get their game schedules first so that Chad can work on getting games scheduled or accommodated, and then we would take a look at trying to accommodate practices the best we could. We did talk about our priority is given to city functions, then the recreation department, and then what we look at is the different user groups or organizations based on the population or the community that they serve. So taking a look at our user groups, you can see that we try to work initially with the YMCA to try to get their schedules accommodated, and we'll go right down the list based on the number of participants that they're accommodating. We did talk about the revised schedule, or the fee schedule, which I included in your packet. And after having much discussion about how we could give them another attempt to work with us over the next year, that I would be willing to forego the proposal to charge the per hour rental fee. So on the new fee structure, you'll see that the first two columns, the baseball field rental per hour. I did say if we can work together for another year and we can come to a better solution on this, I'd be willing to waive that yet. Same thing with baseball field with use of the lights, no fee. The one item that we did talk about is if we are going to prep the fields, we do feel we need to charge the $15 resident, $25 non-resident fee. And as well as tournaments, they did look at these and they were pretty nominal as far as the fees go when you compare to other communities. And I went around the room and asked each group, are you okay with these fees as proposed? And it was a consensus that they are okay with us charging these fees. At the end of the meeting, I asked them to either email me, and I said they can always come to this meeting yet because the board does want to hear from them. I said if there's issues that you don't agree with, make sure you either let me know or show up at the meeting. So my assumption by them not being here, and I did get, I think, 2 emails from groups saying we support the decisions made at the meeting. So, I know some of the board members and actually some of the council members had also requested information on the user groups as far as residency goes, and I provided that information. These are all self-reported numbers, so it's the best that we could get from them without trying to verify anything. So I think it's a pretty accurate depiction, and you can take a look at those figures. The final item we did talk about, because when I was meeting with these groups one-on-one, they did still want to talk about the need for improvements or a fund to help improve some of the fields. And throughout the one-on-one meetings, we discussed different options, and it seemed that most groups were in favor of adding on additional $10 fee onto their participant fee for their program, which they would then, at the end of the year, they would provide us with a list saying we had X amount of players, and we will cut you a check for $10 per player to go into a Diamond Improvement Development Fund. As you are aware, and some of the board members had that concern at the last meeting, I could not give that commitment, but the city manager, finance director, and we've talked to some of the council members, I think we are all in agreement that that needs to be established in order for this, for our fields to be improved, and it's easier for these groups then to go back to the participants saying the money is going in to improve fields. So that's where we're at this point. Like I said, I'd like to thank all the groups for meeting with us, and I think it's something we'd like to give a try for a year, come back and report on it and see how things go. Without continuing to talk much, Amy?
I'll excuse myself during the discussion based on my role on the Fast Club Board.
Thank you.
I just have a question.
Don't go too far.
I want to make sure.
You don't have any fees for the no prep about lights. Who covers the cost of the lights when they're being used? Different diamonds.
That falls
That
within
in your-
our parks budget, correct?
Parks budget?
Yes.
I would just like to say great job on kind of bringing everyone together, and it sounds like you guys are really close to just solving this amongst themselves.
I hope it is. There was a lot of good discussion about being truthful and honest with the request for scheduling. So, like I said, I'm willing to give it another shot for a year, so thank you.
Bill?
This non-resident, be like baseball field prep, $25, or $15 for resident, $25 for non-resident. Do we have any non-resident teams that would come in and use the fields?
We may have a group or an organization that comes in, whether it's for adult softball or for youth that might come in. So just like our shelter rentals, we have a non-resident boat launch type fees, we have non-residents pool, we now have non-resident. So I think we need to be prepared for that.
Okay.
I would just say we have to be prepared, so.
Because you're not going to sit there and look at, oh, a team's got some non-residents in there, so we're going to charge them a non-resident fee.
No,
So just in case a tournament wants to come in and use our facilities.
correct. That's more of what we're looking at, correct.
Okay. And then secondly, you talked about the rec department having, team fee and so much going into a DIF, and $33 for a player, and then $7 going into DIF, and non-resident is $48 with $7 going in there. Do the OIB and Bass Club and everything have something set up like that? Because it looks like it's a pretty good setup, that we've got money going back in for Diamond Improvement.
None of the groups have that set up. Right now, we relied on those groups to give donations to us. If we had something come up, we would reach out to those groups for whether it's infield mix or any other improvements we were looking to make. So that $10 additional fee would then be the start of that Diamond Improvement Fund that would be maintained in the city, segregated for our facilities.
Is anybody here to talk about the fees? Okay. So Ray, basically nobody's opposed to this?
I made sure that either they emailed me or they showed up here.
Okay.
And the main user groups at this point, when we went around the room that night, said we're willing to pay these fees.
Okay.
Well, it looks like Ray did all the work for us anyway.
Yep.
Good job.
Good job, Ray.
If there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll
Is
second.
there any more discussion before we get everybody happy with this? I know I am. Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the fees. Roll call.
Davis? I'm sorry. Barth?
Aye.
Waleski?
Aye.
Herman?
Aye.
Michelson?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Bull?
Aye.
Schuessler?
Aye.
Mueller?
Aye.
just real quickly, if you take a look at the number of participants that were provided to us from each of these groups, and knowing that some of these will grow, so roughly 1,300 to 1,500 kids a year. So we're looking at possibly $13,000 to $15,000 a year coming into a Diamond Improvement Fund, which will help us to start generating some improvements. So, thank you.
Okay, time for citizen statements for items not listed on the agenda. Anybody want to talk? Get up the mic. Give us your name, address.
My name is Ann Bradley, and I currently live at 135 Southwest Haven Drive, the Country Park Apartments. And I'm here because I'm a student at UW Oshkosh with my classmate, Matt Ryerson. We are doing a semester-long project reviewing the restoration site at Miller's Bay in Oshkosh. So just kind of seeing what attitudes, if it's something that's going to be able to continue, what, just from a citizen's perspective of how things are going. And I guess we kind of came to see if there were any perspectives anyone on the board could offer us or suggestions, just due to limited amount of time.
If you wouldn't mind, I know Bill is going to give an update on that site, and maybe at that time, if there's questions or any comments the board would like to make, that might be appropriate if so.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Park Director's report.
I'd like to pass around, hopefully I've got enough, and if not, you can fold your own. But this is the educational piece that we have started to give out since the dogs have been allowed in parks. For a couple of months, we had this piece of information made up that essentially gave some of the rules and regulations, what's allowed, what's not allowed, and some of the fines that could be associated. What we have is our staff, each of them has a stack of this in their maintenance vehicles, and we provided hundreds of copies to the police department as a way for them to educate some of the public before simply issuing a ticket or a warning. So I thought it was a pretty neat educational piece, and Ann helped come up with this, our marketing person, but just another way of helping to not jump to the first step of giving a ticket. So as far as dogs in parks go, Trish can speak to this, but I think we have gotten more favorable comments called into our department than negative as far as emails or comments. Probably 5 to 1 is what I've been tracking on. So I think it's working out okay. I know there's still people that weren't happy with the decision, but I think overall, I think it's been going fairly well.
Ray, can I just make a comment? You may want to, when you reprint these, put Winnebago County Park, because they're only allowed in the dog park. They've posted signs now all over the county park that dogs are not allowed on the blacktop walkways in the county park. And so they're having some issues with dogs in the county park, because the only place they can actually be in the county park is at the dog park. They can't be in any, unless they're, again, of course, someone that has a disabled, service dog or something like that. But they've had to put postings around at the county parks.
Okay, we'll make note of that. A couple other items to update you on is the city budget is, the council has had a public hearing last Tuesday, and a week from tomorrow, the budget will be adopted. I know there are some potential enhancements or revisions that are being looked at, but I think for the most part, our budget has been pretty well received. We have requested reinstatement of a position that we have had lost since 2014 when we have an individual retire, and we shared information with the council on a number of facilities, Riverwalk roundabouts, additional park shelters, trails that we have taken on since then, in addition to the loss of the inmate labor. We've lost about 13,000 hours of man hours by losing the inmate labor plus our full-time staff member. So what Chad and I and Bill met on was to combine some of the seasonal positions we have, and then also looked at some other areas in our line item budgets that we could possibly reduce in order to get a full-time staff member back. And I'm hoping that that will get into the final budget as well, because we are really strapped at this point. So the CIP is going forward as proposed. I have not seen any changes to that, so if the board remembers 3 months back when we talked about that, those projects should be in the CIP, assuming no major changes on the 22nd. We started meeting with our parking and transit director, as well as our engineering staff and AECom today. South Park, the parking lot will be reconstructed as part of the lagoon project. The city has a pool of money that we look at all city parking lots, whether it's police, fire, parks, streets, it doesn't matter. We had those ranked, and then Jim Collins, our transit director, will then propose the parking lots that are the worst shape. South Park is one of those, and we felt that by doing the lagoon work and having the track or the trail paving going on, it made sense to do the parking lot with that project. We are looking at either doing that late in the fall next year or possibly in the spring of 2018, depending on when the trail work is completed with the South Park lagoon work. So we're starting work on improving the parking lot, but also adding spaces. I think we're currently at about 26 spaces, roughly, and we're looking at the current plan gets us up to about 42 to 46. So adding a number of parking spaces around Shelter 1 and the inclusive playground. So we'll keep you posted on that project, but we just had our first meeting on that today. Final item, I wanted to let the board know that Chad was recently recognized by our State Park Association at our conference 2 weeks ago. Chad was awarded the Park Professional of the Year Award for his involvement with our state association, as well as what he does here locally for the department and for the city. So I wanted to share that with the board and congratulate Chad on that. So it's great recognition by peers, and I think it's very well deserved. So that's all I have.
Well, congratulations, Chad.
Yes. You got a raise? Piece of plywood to stand on?
The candidates must have been a little weak this year, huh?
There's only one.
Yeah, he was the only one nominated.
But thank you. It's very humbling.
Well, we'll see how good he does. It's up to you now.
Yeah, you got her. As far as park report, just a few things to kind of go through. First, I'll start out with the events, and I asked Jenny to give a little bit of a rundown for Zulaween Boo if you didn't happen to get down for the event, but what a great job she ended up doing this year with everything down there for the event. Over the course of the 2 days, 4,020 people attended that. She ended up raising, she had everything 100% sponsored for the event, generated just about $17,600 for the zoo. So when you do see her, please, I know how much work it goes into it for her, so that's a great job on her behalf. Second, with Menominee Park, you probably noticed that Celebration of Lights has started set up down there. We did help in October with a couple of the features, like the 100-foot tree, the archways, and stuff like that, but everything else is done by their committee and the volunteer services that they have, and some of the DAC and staff that they bring in for multiple things. So things are coming together there really well. And in addition to holidays, the holiday tree, we did help with putting in last week, which the holiday parade takes place this coming Thursday. So that's actually, we're halfway done getting the lights on it here today. Hopefully tomorrow we'll finish that. As far as some maintenance items, based on what the crew we've had available, a lot of staff take some vacation time during the hunting seasons and have been gone, but fall has been great. Mowing and mulching has been huge. In fact, we're still mowing grass, which sounds, you might be doing it in your own yards as well. All the facilities that we have been winterized. We've received a few calls in regards to like tennis nets and things that are out there, even restrooms being closed just because it's been so nice, but that's just abnormal. So, but everything went well from there. Projects-wise, if you haven't been down through Glatz Park yet, I encourage you to take a walk through of what's been done on some additional clearing, bench installation. Bill and I worked with our crews on both ends from tree removal. We're going to be doing some more work there this fall or this winter with trail restorations and things, and working our way out to Doty Street. So hopefully that'll keep coming together. Roof projects that have been completed under the building services. We had the score booths and Reed's concession stand done. Fugleberg boat launch, the Spanbauer maintenance shed, and which one am I forgetting, Ray? I don't forget. South Park number 3. So those things have taken place. They had great weather over the past couple weeks to get those done. If you haven't been down with the completion of the street projects at Mill Street, check out the new boat launch. Did some nice finishing touches up to the boat dock and the approaches. With that, we will be putting a kiosk up here in the payment station sometime, well, definitely before the spring of the year. But that's taking shape, and I know last week I was down there still working on concrete stuff with the Bowen Street Fishing Pier, but sure looks really nice down in that area as well. And South Park parking lot, Ray's touched on already, and Bill will probably touch on the Chief Oshkosh project. So, been a good fall. Hopefully the winter stays nice too. So,
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, just a few updates, and then at the end, I'll discuss the shoreline project a little bit. As far as our forestry-related projects, right now we've been working on all the fall cleanup of the flower beds. Right now we're on the traffic islands and roundabouts, cleaning those all up and getting things buttoned up for winter. The forestry crew has removed almost 300 stumps this fall, so we've been we usually concentrate on all the residential stumps first, and now we've just about made it through the parks. We had stumps there from a couple years, so by tomorrow we should have pretty much all of the park stumps completed. Got a couple major tree planting projects going on right now. We've been working on a project with the planning department and the neighborhood associations to plant some areas. So the last week or two, we've been working on Joslyn Street, part of East Irving, Arboretum, and Hickory Drive and Court, and also Parkside Drive. So those areas have seen about 250 trees planted within the last couple weeks. It's really been a nice addition to the neighborhoods. We expect to do about that same number next spring too, as part of the neighborhood association planting project. Another project that was finished up was North Main Street as part of the street renovation and total reconstruction. Quite a few trees were removed there, but as part of the program, since it's a historic neighborhood, we were able to install 80 new trees throughout that section, so that turned out quite nice as well. So we've got really nice stocking through that neighborhood now. We've also been working with Public Works. They have done a couple street reconstruction projects this year. So we've done some replacement plantings on Otter Street, Mill Street, a couple by the end of Bowen, and then also up by Evergreen Retirement Village, Northwest Field. We've been planning some tree replacement that should start happening probably next week. So we're gonna we removed quite a few Norway maples that were in deep trouble up in that area, and we're going to be doing some replacement up there. As far as other tree-related items, Trish and I worked together and got the Tree City USA application submitted. And then also, I have been working with the Southwest Rotary on trying to find some additional funds for our memorial tree replacement program. As you may recall, when people buy memorial trees and plaques, we usually like to try to keep those alive forever, but we have had some mortality on some over the years, so is kind of a nice benefit. The Rotary has agreed to fund some tree replacements for some of those that we've lost, so we'll be receiving some funds in the account to help us with that. The Forestry Division also put up the holiday decorations last week on North Main Street, so we should be all ready on my end for the parade this Thursday. And the Cemetery Division has been very busy with cemetery leaf cleanup, and it's been kind of an ongoing project here for the last few weeks. They're almost all off the trees now, so we're hoping to get that wrapped up here pretty shortly. With regard to the Millers Bay Shoreline Project, I know there was a question about that last meeting and I wasn't here, and consequently I did receive a phone call from, I think, the student group, and I had a bit of discussion with the folks from the UW about that project, so I don't know if there's any additional questions that they have that would, I did recommend that they could contact any of the park board members if they wanted further views from you individually. But just in lieu of an update, all the plants have been cut back. They did receive a grant from the Oshkosh Garden Club to install a bench within that planting as part of the viewing area that we discussed a while back. So there will be a section in the center that will be opened up, and then I've been working with Chad and the Parks Department to come up with a plan to actually have a concrete walkway and pad up to that bench. So there will be a fairly sizable opening that will be created in there where the bench will sit, and it'll be similar to what we have done for other benches throughout the park. So that's upcoming, so a bit of that area will be opened up. So we actually delayed a bit of the cutting back of the plants this fall so that Michelle and her group could actually do some seed collection. So she had met with the wild ones, I believe it was last week, and then they did a final collection of any of the seed that they wanted to salvage out of that area. And then they're also going to continue on moving some of those taller growing plants out of the area, and they've been pretty good on working on that. Obviously, we've had some other discussions subsequently that we still are hoping that they can trim that back earlier in the season next year. This year it got away from a little bit, and things got rather tall, as many of you know. So we're going to be staying on them a little more about trying to get that maintained early on. So I think she's definitely been on track with the project. So I believe that we'll be seeing some changes in it next spring and summer. So with that, I don't know if you wanted to open it up to the student questions, or if you
Do you have any other questions you'd like to ask Bill?
I personally, how?
Nope, go up to the,
Thank you.
I guess my question would be, how progressive are plans to extend the site? Is there a plan to extend the site at some point in the near future, or is it just kind of keeping it centralized?
The project was developed as a pilot project, so at this point, the size is limited to what it is. We developed it as a pilot project primarily to just see how things worked out. So this has been kind of a grand experiment, I think, running for now about 4 years. So of course, there's always that potential to expand it, but I think, and maybe the board may disagree, but I think at this point, the consensus has been to limit it to the site we have now. We are going to include some lower growing plantings during that South Park Lagoon project, and so I think that'll be a nice comparison to what other options might be out there. So I think at this point, I'd chime in if anyone else wants to comment on that.
Some other plantings also by the pump house down by...
Yeah, there was, a site near the lift station in the park that some of the taller growing plants were moved to. So that was actually an additional area that was opened up over and above the pilot project. So, there's some other areas too along the Riverwalk that some native plantings have been utilized as well.
And if you go out to the county park, I don't know if you've ever been out to the Winnebago County Park off of Snell Road and Y, they have a huge expanse of wild planting areas. They just burned it off last year, and it's actually come back bigger than ever after they burned it off. So, but a good quarter of the county park is made up of wildflowers and plants and things just like they have down at Millers Bay.
I did have one more question, just a personal curiosity, because kind of what I've been finding, because our section of the project, we kind of broke it down into specific sections, but my section is kind of like the public opinion section. Have there been any kind of programs to involve citizens in manicuring that plot, or is it just specifically Michelle's?
There's been a variety of groups who've been working on it. Groups from the UW, the neighborhood associations down in that area, the Wild Ones, the Audubon Society. there's a pretty extensive list of groups, so it's been worked on by, probably several hundred different individuals and maybe 20, 25 groups, I think.
Yeah. Well, just to go to your question as a city council rep, a few comments that I've gotten from citizens, the concern was the height of the plants and things, because this board had, prior to me getting on this board, and as some of the longer board members can talk about it, that they were given a restriction height to how high they wanted it. And so the citizens that border kind of Menominee Drive, that area, at times are concerned about the height of the planting and that it obstructs your view to the lake and things like that. So if there's been any citizen issues, it's been the height of the plantings, and that's what Mr. Sturm's talking about when he's talking about, working on getting that height issue resolved. To expand it, they have to kind of come on board with some of the issues. So.
Anything else?
No further questions.
Okay, thank you.
Just as the council rep with the budget, as Mr. Mauer said, council is supportive of adding that parks caretaker position back in, or trades tech on the city side, parks caretaker on the county side. But we see the need for that position back in the table organization. Unfortunately, the trade-off is they'll have less seasonal employees, and Ray can maybe talk a little bit, but it's going to get spread out throughout the different departments. So they'll probably have 4 or 5 less seasonal employees for the calendar year, which can have some effects, but at the same time, I know from my work and on the other end of it, that a full-time year-round person can do a lot of things, especially in the off-season when park benches need to be fixed and other equipment needs to be maintained and things like that. And so a full-time person sometimes can actually be much more beneficial than 4 or 5. Not that seasonal positions are needed, because there's way too much grass and other things that need to be maintained, but the benefit of a full-time sometimes outweighs the negative impact of losing those seasonal employees. But we were hampered by the levy limits, and we cannot go over 6%. All the budget means, it's 6%, I think. We can't, if we go over 6% in our levy, then we lose our levy restraint, and we'll lose money from even more money from the state. So we have to be conscious of where that levy limit is, and that's a big part of, when you add a person, it's, for every penny you add, it's $1,000 to the overall levy. So you have to be careful about that, and we're under that, so we're in good shape. So I don't think there'll be any budget adjustments at the 22nd meeting. I think the position will go through, and we'll have that other position back on the table organization.
Okay, anything else?
As far as the next meeting goes, typically December is slower for us. We do have 2 items. Bill's got an item, and we do have one other item that I've been holding off on. They are not pressing items, so we may be canceling December and going into January, but I will keep you posted on that if something else comes up, so, even though we have it listed here.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.